hopefully this will be helpful to some of you that have been looking for matte eyeshadow palettes that are pretty darn good for the drugstore, or just good in general, honestly. So, you know, I think maybe nowadays, it might be obviously a little bit easier to find an all matte eyeshadow palette at the drugstore, but I remember back, I don't know, a couple of years ago, a few years ago, I don't know, it wasn't as easy to do. So that's how I came across a couple of these palettes. And I looked for quite a while before I found them. So I wanted to share them with you. They're all from the drugstore. I will list their price, where you can get them, and then I'll share some swatches and kind of my thoughts on them. So I think one of the first eyeshadow palettes of all matte eyeshadows was actually from Physicians Formula, and I have two different ones here, but the first one that I ever got was Quartz Quartet, and it's the matte collection quad eyeshadows, and they retail nowadays for $7.99, and I looked that up on Ulta because I figured if it sold anywhere, Ulta would have it, and it is available online, so that is an option. But here are the shadows here. I personally bought this at my local Freddy's, Fred Meyer's, which is owned by Kroger. So if Kroger in your area happens to sell makeup and Physicians Formulas there, look towards the bottom part of the display, because that's where I found these. Obviously, you can see the packaging is not super flashy, say like the butter bronzer and all that. This is definitely a lot more subdued, but here are the swatches of this palette here, and I figured I would just do it off camera just because I take a long time anyway. So it's that top row. So a couple of the shades are relatively light, so it's a little difficult to see them. And they're not super pigmented, but the texture is quite nice and it's buildable. So I quite like that in products. I think, I don't know, nowadays, or as far as like YouTube goes, when I say nowadays, because there are some people out there that don't do the whole YouTube thing and aren't like crazy, but as far as YouTube goes, I feel like a lot of people say, oh, it's not super pigmented, but I personally like products that are buildable. So it doesn't need to be super pigmented in the first swatch, but if it can be built up, I consider that to be pretty good and with a good texture, So this one is Classic Nudes. You can definitely see that this is warmer. So there's a couple of options, and these two are available on Ulta's website. I don't know if there were other ones. I feel like there were maybe more in this line, but like in a different setup with different kinds of shadows, but these are the ones that I have. I haven't used this at all yet, actually. This one's a lot newer. I bought this within the last year or so, and I just recently took it out of its packaging just to get rid of the cardboard. But depending obviously on what your wants are, the kind of colors you like, this is definitely a lot warmer than this one. I'm not going to swatch this one, but these are this quad is available for those of you who like warmer eyeshadows. And again, this one's definitely a lot cooler, and I actually quite like this. I'll admit though, I haven't used this in a long time, like, consistently. I think that's just because there's not a whole lot of variation, but I mean, if you like to keep your eyeshadows relatively basic on a day-to-day, or you don't like to fuss around with a bunch and you like these shades, go for it. I think it's well worth it. So it's what, $7.99, so $2 an eyeshadow, maybe worth it too. Okay, so that eyeshadow quad from Physicians Formula was the first all matte palette that I ever found. The next one, and the one that I probably find the most versatile and most useful, and I know it's just very good quality, is the Sonia Kashuk Ion Neutral No. 2 palette. As you can see how how long I've had this with all the, you know, scratches and stuff on the back. But this one retails for $19.99, 20 bucks. So I know that is a lot of money for something that you can find at the drugstore or drugstore retailers. Just Target, really, because that's where you can find Sonia Kashuk. But there's a lot of Targets around nowadays, or not nowadays, but in general, there has been for a while. I don't know why I'm saying that, but it is relatively expensive for drugstore, at least for someone like me at the time, and even still now. But there are 12 eyeshadows here, so as you can see, I've used this quite a bit. You can see the different, not the different, but the deep wells in there. In the shades that I use the most. I don't know. I've had this one for, I want to say, at least 2 or 3 years. 3 years probably. And I used it for the longest time because I would use it for so many things. For contouring, my eyeshadow, my brows. And I loved it for a while. But then I kind of put it away. I think the texture kind of annoyed me because it's a relatively dry texture, but here are the swatches. As you can see, the 4 in the middle, that's from this palette. And I'm coming off really yellow. I'm sorry. I don't know why that does that. Probably because of my yellow walls. But yeah, very pigmented. And all of these are from one swatch, from one little dip, just like on there. So the shades that I swatched here was this one, this one, this one, and this one, right? No. This one, this one, this one, and this one. So, very pigmented. That black is super pigmented. I've kind of forgotten. So, I know it's relatively expensive in one product, but I don't know. I've used it quite a bit, and if you can, and if, you know, this sort of thing, a bunch of, you know, relatively neutral. There's not a whole lot of super warm shades in here. My camera might not be helping that claim, but why is it so yellow? But there's really only a couple of shades that really are really warm. These two here, this one has a bit of warmth, but not a whole lot. These two down here are relatively cool. Yeah, I don't know. They're quite nice, I think. Yeah, I think it's worth checking out, in my opinion, for the number of shades you get. So, let's see. So, 12. So, each eyeshadow is $1.66. So, you know, if you wanted to compare it to this one, it's less expensive for the number of shades you get. Okay, and then the last eyeshadow palette that I would like to recommend, is the NYX Lid Lingerie. So I definitely got this within the last year. I think I got this last summer or last spring. And this one is retailing, at least on the Ulta website, for $9.99. There are the shades there. You get 6 of them. And this, they say it's 10 bucks. It's 10 bucks, $9.99. But typically, Ulta has like a buy one get one 50% off on NYX stuff. So I don't know if that matters to you at all. So this one is definitely, I would say it's a lot warmer than the, say, this palette. Obviously, you only get 6 shades, which is more than these two, the quads, right? But these are relatively unique, I think. These are, I don't know, these 2 shades are unique for me. And then you get 2 options for deep browns. My swatches for those are right here on the bottom. And again, this one here is this peachy shade at the bottom, so it's kind of close to my skin tone, so you can't really see it. But this is really nicely pigmented as well. There's that purple, that, you know, kind of reddy burnt shade, and then one of the browns here. So, I don't know. I think this has really nice, smooth, relatively buttery texture compared to this one. So if this is kind of speaking to you, I would recommend this. Again, $10 at Ulta. So 10 divided by 6. Oh, 10 divided by, yeah, $10, right. So this is also $1.66. So the eyeshadows, per eyeshadow, it's the same price, though I don't know, I don't know the like amount that you get, and I'll be honest, I'm not gonna sit here and try to figure that out, but that is an option. So those are the 3 that I really recommend. Those are the ones that I've actually used quite often. This one definitely most, this one next, and then this one after that, but I don't know, they're all very nice and I would recommend them. I had one more thing that I don't know if I would say I would recommend, but I'll just put it out there in case you're interested. If it appeals to you, you're curious about it, it is an option out there. I did check, it is still available. I got this probably 2 years ago. This is from Hard Candy. It's one of their top 10 trendsetters eyeshadow collections, and this is in Birthday Suit. So, a long name, very small packaging, and you get these shades here. So there's that. The reason why I don't necessarily recommend them is because I haven't used it enough to really say that I recommend it. Though I will swatch 4 shades here. Okay, and this blue. What's nice about this too is that there is a matte blue. So this is definitely a little bit more gritty of a texture. And I'll put them right here. I'll put them here. Ugh, awkwardly right here. Okay. So the texture is not super smooth, but you know, there's some pigmentation there. If you wanted to compare, I know my lighting is a little off and I apologize, but hopefully you kind of get the idea. I don't know why my lighting is so off, but there's that. I mean, the pigmentation is there. Again, the texture is a little bit gritty. But this is $6. I'm pretty sure I paid $6 for it. For what? How many shadows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, top 10. Duh. Hello. That's what it's called. 10. Did I say 10? No. $6 divided by 10. So, right, 60 cents per shadow. And they're relatively small pans. Again, if you're, I don't know if this is appealing to you in some way, you know, check it out. There's a few that are kind of the same shade, like these, all these light ones. I mean, there's slight variation, but not to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, there's a big difference there. But, you know, it's less expensive than the other ones. So this one would be available at Walmart. So that is an option. I think that's it though. No, that is it. Hopefully that was helpful to you. Hear those swatches again, I know. So, gosh, I can't get over how pigmented that black is, but hopefully that was helpful to you. I know for a while there weren't that many all matte eyeshadow palettes. These are definitely mostly neutrals. I know NYX has, you know, some colorful ones, so they can be pretty reliable for, you know, keeping up with trends and having pretty good quality. And I'm sure there are other options now, but I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents. Thanks for checking this out, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.